Well, thank you, everyone. So let's go ahead and get started. For folks who are new, this is called Learning Lab now. It's a Zoom call once a week. We try to keep it to 60 minutes, sometimes 50 minutes. We often have a speaker or a demo we call a showcase. Tonight we don't, for a couple reasons. So I'm going to show a couple GPT prompts, and hopefully that starts a dialogue and also leaves a lot more room for people to share some of the great use cases. I've heard two of the ones that really blew me away this week. I sent out an email, and one of them was the movie. Did anybody see that one? The 12-minute movie called The Frost, which was completely put together with DID and Dolly. So that's, I think, a idea of what's coming, and it, at least for me, again, it shows the power of storytelling over forming technology. It's a little bit like the Blair Witch Project, where the storytelling was so compelling, it kind of overcame the early limits of the technology. And the other one, there's an alien movie. I guess there's an alien, I don't watch movies much, alien series. And there's a new alien series movie coming out in the fall. And one of the things they're working on is a chat bot for the alien. So you can actually talk with the alien, I think before and during a movie, maybe not during a movie, certainly before. So pretty exciting on those different use cases. But let me go through a couple slides and we'll jump into some ChatGPT stuff. What is Nuggets? We're just a practical community. We're actually going to be renaming ourselves here in a week or two to General AI Insights. But this is, we started in the ChatGPT, really focus on business case ROI, the safety and all the concerns about AI killing us are important topics. It's just not in scope for this. We do a lot of workshops, and meetings with companies trying to understand what all is going on here. Really believe in community, and it's just been fabulous to see how this community here grows kind of virtually, and then ones we're seeing on different conferences and networking events. If you haven't seen, we've done, and we need to do more of these. We've got another 20 that we've got to get up there. These are short testimonial use cases for business cases, and it's great for people at your work or others who still may believe that ChatGPT is a parlor trick or just good for kids and cheating in school. I've got a bunch of announcements coming up. We are better now. We are posting all these recordings on our YouTube channel. Was that just last week? We had our first AI Woodstock in New York City, which was fabulous. We had 150 people signed up, and people may remember that was that Wednesday where that crazy fire smoke was coming in from Canada. And it was, I was in the city, it was stunning how strong the smell was and how the smoke was, but we still end up having about 80 attend, and really enthusiastic group. They want to do it again. Same question asked everywhere. I said, why are you guys here? Why isn't this, they said this is the only group they could find that's focused on generative AI, that's focused on business and technical people meeting, that's focused on trying to find use cases. There were, goodness, 6 or 8 interesting startups. They're representative from IBM and Accenture and E&Y's consulting groups, a couple investors. So very exciting. So we'll do that one again in New York City. We've got one coming up June 26th here in Boston. That's before the big MIT event on the 26th.
This is a brand new.
Let's see, who should we mute? Thank you for muting. This is the LinkedIn live event. So this is a free webinar on LinkedIn that Rosemary and I are doing tomorrow. I will try to stick in the chat. For people who haven't done LinkedIn live events, I think they're a fabulous tool for get out to the business folks. It's free, the recording stays up, and we're certainly experimenting. So that's with Rosemary and I tomorrow, Tuesday, 12 Eastern. And then on Wednesday at 11 Eastern, earlier on the East Coast, 8 o'clock Pacific time, we're rerunning the one with Alex. Alex is over in Scotland. We had a whole bunch of technical challenges. He works at an agency. He's a CTO on the technical side and has some really good examples of how to use this in marketing, but particularly around the Mid-Journey side. So if you haven't seen Mid-Journey or want to see more examples, that Mid-Journey is the text to image generative AI, where ChatGPT is just text to text. If you're in Boston, I'm speaking at 2 conferences on Thursday. This is one of them on AI. We're doing a workshop there on how to use it for clean tech. We are in the process of doing a webinar or LinkedIn Live with Goodwin. Lots of IP issues out there. Martin at Goodwin's a partner focusing just on IP. Goodwin's the law firm that OpenAI uses here. So we're going to get a lot of good discussions on, in general, what's going on with some of the IP issues here. What happens when some of your data gets sucked up into the training models? Can you actually get IP protection for when you create something creative out of the model? Who actually has rights to sue and everything else? So there's a whole host of IP issues. It's a very important area, and it's one of the areas I've seen 3 or 4 projects already get stalled at companies because of the confusion around this. We've been supporting D3 is the kind of new media group at Harvard Business School. They've kicked off GAI summer webinar series every other week. Shikar Ghosh is one of the 2 professors there. They had a good one on June 8th, and the next one is June 22nd. We're talking about, I may be presenting at this one or the next one. We pulled together, people haven't seen it, we pulled together a set of ChatGPT use cases for creating a company that does cups for left-handed people. So we go through each of the different functional areas, and we've got a lot of good feedback from that. So we'll present it either at this one or the one after that. June 27th in Boston, folks, this is an all-day event at MIT's computer lab. It's called Computer Science and Artificial Lab, CSAIL. It's the biggest lab at MIT, 1,500 people, and this is their 60th year anniversary. So they're having 60 of the leading researchers give, I think it's 6 or 9 minute talks about what area they're going in. But around that will be about 1,000 different people throughout the day. So it's a great gathering of VCs and entrepreneurs. We're also doing, it says 20, I think it's going to be 40 startups, both at 7:30 and noon. That will give 1 to 2 minute pitch decks here. So the event is free. You do have to register. And at some point, the fire marshal is going to cut off how many people can come in. So if you're all interested, I encourage you to, and if you're an AI startup and you haven't registered, please do, or let me know, and I can make sure you get registered, because we want some good quality ones. We've got enough, but we want a few more that are really focused on AI. I think last announcement, we're putting our own conference on September 12th and 13th in Boston. Generative AI World is what we're calling it. It's aimed at kind of director, VP, and CEOs for medium to large companies here. We're super excited. PwC is going to be a sponsor, and we've got 2 other names that you would know that is already interested in sponsoring this as well. It'll be 400 people at the Royal Sonesta, and we'll also have 20 exhibits. So tabletop exhibits, but if you want to go around and see different vendors, it's a great chance to do that. It's been really interesting talking to some of these larger companies like PwC and Microsoft and some of the HR companies. The pressure now on CEOs to get a story around this is very real. And it's really interesting, all the service companies around them, accounting, consulting, IT, are desperate to kind of stand next to or get smart or look smart in front of their clients. So what's gone from an interesting thing in January to, okay, maybe we should get our arms around this, to, people may have seen the article 2 weeks ago where 90% of the public's gains in the stock market in the New York Stock was due to AI, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and others here. That just caused a huge rush through the private markets. So private equity and VCs were all coming down, and we're getting a lot of calls. And and companies are on their heels, so they are working to come up, and that's one of the things we're go ahead, Bob.
I don't know if you've seen it, Paul, just a tidbit of information, but Bloomberg tracks earnings calls, and the number of mentions of Gen AI by the CEO and CFO has basically doubled per quarter for the last 2 quarters. I mean, it is the number one thing that they talk about in their earnings call proactively before even questions come around. Interesting statistics.
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly, it's getting the pixie dust. I don't want to use any names. There's one private equity firm that they actually believe one of the things they need to do is get every one of their portfolio companies doing something around AI. So that increases the multiple, even though it's the same company that's been around. So lots and lots of flux in that area. Great. So let me, I'm going to show a few chat GPT prompts, but I've been talking a lot. Does anyone else have Adam, you want to show, or anyone else? A favorite? Well, let me show a favorite.
Favorite GPT prompt.
What's that?
A favorite GPT prompt. Is that?
Yeah, do you have one?
Oh goodness, give me a minute. I'll go dig through the coffers, see what we got.
Yeah, let me do a couple here. So this is let's see here. One of the things I see in a lot of the training we're going through where people are underestimating the cognitive ability. So people don't know this ChatGPT is a 3 version, 4's the one you paid for, but it's more advanced. And one of the things you see a lot is people are underestimating the cognitive ability of this tool. I want to show that through some of the more examples here. So here you are an expert in outsourcing manufacturing for discrete manufacturing goods from the United States to Mexico and China. Build me a table that shows the pros and cons of manufacturing in the US versus Mexico and China. So kind of a 3-way comparison. And like we've talked in so many of these things, ChatGPT's, we like to think of it's 1,000 interns at your fingertips. It's bringing lots of information, Clay, very quickly to your desktop or your work area. But then that last mile, the last part of it, it's still important for people to use judgment and double check here. So here, it's going through the pros, high, medium, low. So I didn't even actually ask it for a ranking. It came up with the ranking, high, medium, low. And then talks about the regulatory compliance. So here we asked it to do an analysis. Now we're going to ask it to do a recommendation. So which do you recommend and why? It's funny when ChatGPT came out, I never had all these disclaimers up front. Someone's always a disclaimer. And one thing to notice about this is a general conversation about where's best to outsource. High cost US, low cost China, medium cost Mexico. It gave us the pros and cons. We ask it to make a specific decision, but it doesn't have enough context. It doesn't know our business strategy. It doesn't know our cost structure. It doesn't know what our competitive goals are. And it's come back with a nuanced, I'll just stop generating here, a nuanced answer. Choose the United States if the quality of product is your highest priority, relies on high skilled labor. Choose China in the following here. So a nice example of, something that, is a more complex topic for which this tool can start getting arguments, pros and cons on it. There's a number of these flying around. This is just to kind of show it's funny. People may know it's a trillion pieces of information goes into the base model. Then there's a rules layer or safety layer, and then you put your input, it comes out here. One of the things that people like to do are different logic things that aren't so obvious here. So I have a book, 9 eggs, a bottle, and a nail. Please tell me how to stack them on top of each other in a stable manner. So you're giving it instruction. It's got to know something about each of these and interpret that. Now, by design, this is a big estimating machine. It's estimating the next word. So it's a super, super advanced statistical thing to be over simplistic here. But by design, it's called temperature. it's not designed to be 100% accurate. It's designed to be, typically it's out of the box, the temperature is 0.8 or about 80%. So the answers will vary over time. And this particular question, sometimes we'll get a very thoughtful answer. Every now and then we'll get an answer that makes less sense. So it says, let's start. Yep.
You said you were looking for some prompts, so I put one that I thought was a good critical thinking one that you could test. It's in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll do it right after this. So it's figured out the book is the most stable. So put that on the bottom, and then the bottle. Make sure the bottle's in the middle. Now eggs, it's already recognizing this is the tricky part. And then the nail on the very top here. So a good example of you know, something that's a little more than creating a poem. And let's try okay. Oops. Just copying. Here's a prompt from Rosemary. So analyze the long-term effects of remote work on employee productivity, engagement, salaries, and well-being. How can businesses adapt to remote or hybrid work better? What is the best course of action? We understand that remote work allows us to access a much wider employment pool, but we also understand that remote workers might not be as productive, be as easy to manage, or feel engaged as on-site employees. My company provides payment software with financial software. Security is critical. List issues by priority importance. So a big topic that's got lots of different nuances to it. A number of instructions. What is the best course of action? Listed importance. And our 1,000 interns have come back with some answers here. Long-term effects of remote work, starting to show productivity, engagement, salaries, well-being. Different ways to adapt. And best course of action. Noel asked a good question. Would you say GPT-4 is worth the price? I'd be interested in others' answers. I think it's absolutely worth trying it for a month for the following reasons. One, you don't have to wait. It never gets the, not never, it rarely gets the congested problem. Second is that you have access to a lot of the beta. So here, ChatGPT-4 plugins are in beta, and they're a really powerful thing. Rosemary's gonna be talking about those tomorrow. We touched on those last time. Browse, you can use something called Browse with Bing, where it actually searches the internet. Remember, out of the box, ChatGPT is not connected to the internet, and this plugin allows you to do that. And there's a few others. Code Interpreter's a third one that I don't yet have, but quite excited, but very powerful. So that's a second benefit of it. And the third benefit of it is that you have access to ChatGPT-4's model. So 3.5, I always start because it's just faster, but doing more cognitively challenging things like Rosemary's prompt, I find consistently that the more powerful ChatGPT-4 is better. So I certainly think it's worth it. I know people who are doing coding and writing swear by it and sometimes tell me they'd pay way more than $20 a month for it. Adam, you got a prompt you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'll do a little show and tell. I actually literally just since you asked me, I figured I'd do something and highlight a couple, like a use case here that I've been playing with, which is pretty cool. Just to introduce myself, howdy everyone. I'm Adam, hailing from Melbourne, Australia. It's 9:30 on Tuesday morning for me. These are actually a pretty good time, so I love to join when I can. I've been hands-on ChatGPT since the first week of December, just after it came out, and have really dived in and love just training and enable other people. So this is an example here. I just typed this up since Paul asked me. He was asking what I think. So this part I just put in at the beginning. I like to do something like this just to get ChatGPT grabbing some context around the request. I find it actually does give it better results. So as you see here, I say, I'll make it a little bigger. Act like an expert in all relevant fields. First pre-process my request, determine what fields are relevant, then proceed to execute the request. So I find just by forcing it into a loop effectively, where it has to determine that first, as I said, I just get better results. And as you see, it came back and it said, based on the information from the about page, we'll explain it more, these are the relevant fields that I need to be an expert in. So it's already going to draw in information about script writing, storytelling, marketing, and positioning before it then goes and does what I asked it to. And what I asked it to do was to write a 5-sentence script to be used as the voiceover on a video that takes the user on a hero's journey and positions our products and services as a powerful way to get value out of AI for your business. Then I gave it the about page for ChatGPT nuggets. So it actually came back and it wrote a little script for you, Paul.
That's great.
Right. In a
Yep.
world where AI is evolving at a rapid pace, your business stands at the precipice of a transformative journey.
Yep.
With ChatGPT nuggets, your trusted guide, you'll harness the power, unlock remarkable ROI and growth, etc. I'll share this little tool I just discovered. It's called Pictory, PICTORY.ai, right? And as you can see, I actually went in and I pasted the script in that I just made on ChatGPT, and it auto-generated. I'll just do a quick preview of it. It auto-generated. I don't know if you'll be able, if the audio will come through, but you'll at least be able to get a sense of what happened. And this is literally since Paul asked me this request a few minutes ago. It auto-generated audio, music and video to go with all of that text and make like a full little, obviously the editing isn't quite right. When I use it myself, I put it into another tool for the subtitles. But you can see very quickly, literally in a couple minutes, I've now put together a little promo video for ChatGPT nuggets by using a combination of the prompt craft, the plugin that allowed me to go and have ChatGPT know about Paul's business, and then this Pictory AI tool to very quickly create a video from that.
That's great. That's
So-
real-
The one other thing I'll throw in there, people may have heard of 11 Labs. So this that's not the one. 11 Labs allows you to put in a script and then play it in an audio voice. I've trained it on my voice. Again, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but here's that same script that I just had GPT make for GPT nuggets. And I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not. Tell me if this comes through. With ChatGPT nuggets, your trusted guide in this realm, you'll harness the power of generative AI technologies, unlocking remarkable ROI and growth. Our expertise, drawn from pioneering the largest ChatGPT meetup group in the US. And so you see, then I can put out training videos and content, or you all can as well, by using this combination of tools to very quickly generate the voiceover, the video, the script for the video. Literally, I did that all since Paul just asked me if I had a prompt I wanted to share.
It's
this
just
morning.
amazing, Adam. And also languages. So if this was a training guide, you could easily get in Portuguese and Spanish and a whole bunch of other languages right away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Mike, you had a question? I see your hands up.
Yeah, you put in the URL, you didn't copy and paste the website. Is that, did you need a plugin to do that, or can I
Yeah,
just put it in
that's-
the URL?
Yeah, I think Bing will crawl the URL. So if you just use GPT with Bing, it'll work. I actually use I'll type it in the chat. The plugin I really like, it's Web Pilot. And all it does is it just allows you to put a URL into your chat, or multiple URLs, and it'll go out and search them all and use that as context.
And how do you
really-
get the plugins?
Well, Paul, want me to share and show that where
Please,
that is? To be
please,
clear?
thank you.
Yeah, happy to. I'll share my screen again. So here we are in ChatGPT. If we're on a new chat, you can see at the top here, because I'm the paid subscriber, I have the GPT-4 option. If you go down to plugins, if this little drop down pops up. See, I'm using this one web pilot. But if we were to go down to the bottom, there's the plugin store. You click on that, and fortunately now they've added a search capability, thank goodness. I think we got up to about 24 pages of 8 on a page. We didn't have a search yet. So if you go to all, then you can search, for example, here and say, you know, web pilot there, you can see it to add that. The other thing I will mention, I know people who pay for Plus and they say, I can't see this. You have to go over to your name and go into your settings and make sure in beta that you actually have these things enabled. There are people who are paying for this service and they don't even know they have access to it yet because they aren't aware that you have to go into your settings and turn that on. So that's an important point as well.
Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
That's great.
Not paying for it.
Thank you, Adam.
Along that journey, last thing I'll share, I did have to get some better quality audio. And I think it was through this group 3-4 weeks ago, someone shared this Adobe tool that was used to clean up audio quality. I actually used this for this, and I made a little explainer video. Adobe has a tool that can adjust your mic distance and the gain in things so you get good quality. And I pulled a couple different tools together just to, I'm literally using a 10-year-old webcam for my microphone, but I get some pretty good results. So I'll just share a link to that little training video that I made for anyone who's interested to check that as well.
That's wonderful, Adam. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's open it up. Who else wants to share things they're learning or use cases or projects they've done or ask the group questions?
Well,
I have a, oh, go ahead, Rosemary.
no, go ahead. Okay, so I was just picking up on what how Adam started that prompt, which was act like an expert. So, Paul, would it be okay to share my screen for a sec?
Please, go ahead.
Okay, so Paul and I have had this discussion last week, and so I was doing a few tests, side-by-side tests to see what really happens when you say act like an expert. So I'm just going to show you a couple of different examples that I did in using that. So in this example, so I do search engine marketing, and so I'm starting this prompt with act like a search engine marketing expert. And the question is really, what 5 things do I need to know before I start writing content to rank higher? So in this example, you've got on the left-hand side is with the phrase act like an expert, and then on the right, you have just the question by itself. So same. This piece was missing, create a content strategy, which is important as a writer. The second thing that I note when I compare these two is, you know, to write content, you don't, as a writer in a company, you don't really need to be worried about technical SEO. That's done at a different level. So I think you have to use both. You have to do the prompt both ways, because I see that all the time, and I'm not really sure that it always gives the results that you want. But of course, now in this example, now that you can do web browsing, I got a variety of different answers by asking the same question, which is, what is the most relevant marketing strategy today? And I used just default ChatGPT here, which I thought did a pretty good job, given that, you know, it only goes to 2021. And then over here, because I wasn't more specific using the browsing feature in Bing, it gave me a pretty good explanation. It wasn't talking about holidays and things, so I didn't really talk about it being B2B. But then the part where I said act like a marketing expert, it really just gave me the standard stuff that we all know. So I think it's one of those things where you just have to test both ways. So with that, I will turn it back over.
That's great. So, and what I heard there, Rosemary, is that you have 1,000 interns at your fingertips. They may not always get it right. Sometimes you got to tell them with different instructions. You are an expert, not an expert. Use Bing, don't use Bing. Yeah. How about Adam or others? Do you have strong views on, do you need to tell it an expert or not?
No, I'm really glad to see that, Rosemary, because yeah, thanks for that. Particularly the scientist in me has been really curious to do some side-by-side comparisons, and I haven't had a chance to do them. So I appreciate that. I don't know. I find that and this is anecdotal, my experience is I get better quality results. It might be the fact that I'm not just saying act like an expert, I'm actually having it go through and pre-process and consider what those expertise might be and coming up with a list of things and then building from that. But you've probably inspired me to go back and spend at least a little bit of time exploring it more. I like
Yeah.
the way Paul described it, which is, yeah, a whole army of interns, but you might have to check a few of them before you get a quality product out of the
Get
result.
some
Yeah,
get some new-
I concur with that. Actually, my testing has shown that you just don't say act like an expert. You say what the expert does. So you give it clear instructions, talk about personality, tone, and say this is how an expert behaves. And when you do that, it reinforces the logic and you get better results.
that's
Yes,
great.
and only in one of them, I said act like a search engine marketing expert, and I didn't give it a lot of extra context around that. So,
That's great. We've got a couple of raised your hands. I'll go through, Mike, we'll start with you and then go to Chris next and Bob.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going back to the plugins. In the plugin store. I have ChatGPT open right now for ChatGPT 4, and I don't know how to get the plugins.
Mike, you want to share your screen and we can help you?
How do I share my screen?
It's a green button.
Share
in the middle
screen.
footer.
green
Yeah.
button.
You want a Mac or you want a Windows machine, Mike?
I am on a Windows machine, and here I am. Can you guys see it?
There you go.
We can now, Mike.
Okay. So how do I? Get the
Next to your
plugin.
name in the bottom, there's 3 dots. Bottom left,
Bottom left, next to my
right there,
name.
right there. Click on
Right
those
here.
dots.
Okay,
X out that survey thing.
okay,
Go into settings,
settings.
right there. Yep. Go into beta features. Yep.
Okay.
Turn those 2 buttons on. There
Yay!
you go.
Woohoo!
That's what we're talking about.
All
Now,
right,
now exit out, go to a new chat. Hit top left, new chat, top left.
oh, new chat.
There you go. New chat. Go into 4. Go down to either browse with Bing or plugins, either one.
Okay,
So it says under, you selected plugins, go under that caret, no plugins enabled. You see
Go
that
down,
caret?
yep.
There you go. Press on that. Go down, click on plugin store,
oh, boy.
click OK, and you'll get 250 plugins.
We aren't going to see Mike till next Monday at this meeting. Going
Yeah.
down the rabbit hole.
Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mike, come back and tell us
So-
what you learned next week.
I
So
will.
Mike, just very quickly, in the far left popular, these are the current most downloaded ones, and these will change sometimes week to week. The
Okay.
new one is exactly as it shows, and under all, you can see 250 of them and go page by page.
And which is the one that did the pulled up the URL?
That was probably likely not the plugins. If you exit
It
out,
was
I'm just
The one
guessing.
no, it was the one you see right there, Web Pilot.
I was gonna say, I thought.
Web
it was
pilot
fine.
install,
Okay,
You give it the URL of the page you want to include in the search. It works kind of like Bing, but it keeps it on the rails and forces it to only go to that location.
Great. All right, you guys are the best. Thank you very much.
That's great. Go ahead. We'll go, Chris. Why don't you go next? Then Bob.
Sure. Just to jump back to the previous point that Rosemary was talking about, just a few other thoughts there. Sometimes it does, even if you ask it to be more of an expert, it can be a little cliche or shallow in what it's referring to. And if you tell it, hey, these are fine to start off with, but tell me, I feel like some of them are cliche. Can you go a little bit deeper and give me some less common piece of advice here? It'll help elaborate and get into some more specific useful things, especially if you provided more context about your situation. And then one other piece about the, use an act as an expert versus not mentioning that. They are constantly updating GPT-4 behind the scenes, the system prompt that we don't actually have access to. So it wouldn't surprise me if a few months ago that was more important to actually say that, but it's become less relevant now. A couple people have noticed it's changed a little bit over the past couple months.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Mike, you can stop sharing your screen. Just hit stop share. Go ahead, Bob.
Two things. One is quick. I attended a meetup called Gen Minds, which is basically developers out here in the Bay Area working on the LLMs, search tools, etc., NVIDIA, CTOs, that kind of stuff. A tidbit with regard to expert is that it sets the temperature effectively to 0. So essentially what you're saying is you don't want it to be creative. You only want it to give a narrower range of response. That whether they still do that, I don't know, but that's what the feedback was from the developer folks that are directly involved. Paul, I have a quick prompt that I'd like to show the group to the extent there's some interest.
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, let me just, this was more for fun. So a couple of weeks ago, I gave an hour-and-a-half tutorial on ChatGPT. Part A was an intro, and part B was this whole application of critical thinking to prompt engineering. And this was all triggered by a presenter we had about a couple of months ago, Yisai from Meta. So in any case, one of the things I wanted the group to do, and there's 25 on the call, at the time, was to apply critical thinking to both chain of thought and detailed prompting. So I kind of did a presentation of what that was all about. You can kind of see it in the top left slides, but this is kind of a fun group challenge to do. So this lady named Faye is a section mate of mine from business school. Those are her 2 sons. Faye left IBM to take care of her mother and got involved in an Etsy fabrics business, and her 2 sons are teachers. So the fun prompt challenge to see whether they had learned prompt engineering, more specifically both chain of thought and detailed prompting, was to create a business that all 3 would like, not a side hustle, be profitable in 2 or 3 years, not a lot of money into it, and so forth. And the restrictions were you could use what you want, but you couldn't talk to Faye or her sons. So the class knows of her from 40 years ago, dare I say. So how would you approach it? So this is kind of a fun group thing. The gist of what I did was I laid it out, the facts of what we're asking here. And then I asked ChatGPT to ask me about profiles of each of the 3. So you could, from then on, of course, you could go to LinkedIn, Etsy, Facebook, where she posts a lot, to get backgrounds of Faye and her sons. Anyway, it was a lot of fun teaching people to think about what they would use for input to be able to answer this challenge. And then sort of for extra credit was a little bit of fun. Once you come up with those, you pick a couple of the ideas and have it generate creative names for the business. So anyway, it was a fun group exercise. And you can, of course, do this in any domain. I just happen to do it for an individual that people knew from the section.
But Bob, this is really creative. What'd you learn from the audience? Are most people aware, not aware, interested, curious?
So I was shocked, Paul. This, as you can kind of see here, I have 44 slides. It's a big presentation. And I spent a fair bit of time on you can kind of see here, a bunch of the background here. And by the way, you get about 2 minutes of credit there, if you could see on the left, my journey.
Oh, good.
And then learning labs and so forth, right? So there's a lot of tutorial behind it. And I'm going to answer your question in a bit. I spent a couple hundred hours on the computer science behind it. A, I'm a nerd, and B, I want to understand this stuff. And I kind of went through, the data, where it's sourced from, how the transformer, how embeddings work, how the transformer works. There's a great Accenture document, with regard to how good it is, its effect on industries, its effect on jobs and so forth. I mean, I'll skip the rest of the tutorial, but to answer your question, Paul, I was shocked how little it was understood.
Right.
Out of 25 that were on the call, and I've got a request for another 20 more of the copies of this, there was only one person that actually knew it well, and only one other person who actually spent any time with it based on my email to offer to give this course. I was really shocked.
Yeah.
So anyway, if that answers your question.
Yeah, and that's really consistent with what I'm seeing out there as well. But I don't know, probably maybe 100 people in the last 3 weeks, mostly pretty senior people. And, it's so, I start even back on the very beginning. And I tell everyone up front, I'll just want to get the group to go 2 inches forward in the collective. Everyone's heard it. Everyone's so busy. And, it's just, again, shows me, this group, you guys are pioneers way ahead of everyone else in terms of spending more than 3 hours on it. So it's quite stunning. Alden, we'll end with you. Why don't you last question or comment and we'll finish up.
Yeah, so you asked about what we are working on. So, I'm happy to share that we just went live with a no-code plugin builder. So literally with writing 0 lines of code, you can have your own plugin in 30 seconds. And we just went live with it. Planning on launching it on Product Hunt on Wednesday.
Well, good. Well, congratulations.
yeah.
Tell everyone the name of the URL in your company if they want to find out more.
Yeah, the name of the company is Custom GPT, and the URL is customgpt.ai. And this new thing, I'm very excited about it because, there's a lot of excitement with plugins, like as you saw in this group. And right now, anybody with a browser, 0 technical skills, can build their own plugin now.
That's great. Always be shipping.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. Yet another good call, and keep sharing the words. And we'll talk to everyone next week, or hopefully many of you next week. Take care. Good night, or good morning to some.
Right.
Good night to others.
Bye, guys.